morning. I'm Daniel 𝗧cie from Barcelona Supercomputing Center from the Workflows and Distributed Computing Group. In this video, I will present the how to program parallel machine learning application using our dislib library. We'll introduce briefly the COMPs. You can have the details on COMPs on other videos available on this channel. Then I will introduce the dislib library, how the array data structure works to parallelize the applications, the available methods that are already implemented for machine learning, and some performance results. And we will show also an example of a typical workflow in dislib to implement, for example, a support vector machine application. COMPs and PyCOMPS, which is the Python binding of COMPs, is a programming framework that allows application developers to parallelize a sequential Python application. In this case, what we do is to annotate functions through decorators, and these annotations are used by the runtime to run those parts of the code that are annotated as asynchronous parallel task code on the available computational nodes. These annotations describe the type of parameters and constraints of the resources. So from one side, we define what a function does in terms of directionality of parameters and type of those parameters, and the constraints in terms of, for example, a number of cores to execute those functions, the memory required, and other more advanced and detailed constraints that can be also consulted on our documentation. So based on this information, COMPs provides a matchmaking at runtime and execution time between what is available on the given computational nodes and the required constraints of the execution on the specific task. So we also provide a set of methods of APIs to control the flow of the application, and we also provide fault tolerance to decide if certain part of the application has to be discarded given to an error, and synchronization points. PyCOMPs also, so based on all this information, PyCOMPs generates a task dependency graph. So based on the parameters, directionality, etc., the execution time, the code is analyzed, and the task dependency graph is produced, and COMPs then is able to automatically and transparently schedule those execution on a given set of nodes. Those nodes can be nodes of a cluster, as for example, a supercomputer, or could be also a cloud nodes that are then managed in a elastic way, and also can be an hybrid configuration of fixed node and cloud nodes. The important part also is that COMPs takes care of the files and data management. Dislib is a parallel machine learning library which is implemented using PyCOMPs. So it's a collection of machine learning algorithms that are already provided by us to the users that can, with a few lines, integrate in insert code. The idea is that we provide a unified interface which is based on the scikit-learn-fit-predict paradigm, and is based on the DS array distributed data structure idea, as I will explain in a moment. The idea is that we have a set of data load and store methods, and the parallelism of all is transparent to the user, because the parallelism is internally provided by COMPs, as I said. So in this case, the user doesn't have to know what is PyCOMPs, how to implement application PyCOMPs, as I explained before, with the task annotation and the constraints, etc., because we already provide those methods and tasks internally. We have a set of already implemented methods for data management. Then we have, of course, clustering, classification, and model selection, automatic model selection, etc. So the idea of a distributed array, so the idea is that is a two-dimensional structure, basically is a matrix divided in blocks. Those blocks are internally NumPy objects. So the user in the application treats the DS array as a regular Python object. And then internally is up to the library and the PyCOMPSs runtime to manage the memory. This means that if you have a big data set with the dislib, you can split that big data set in blocks of a given size, and then internally COMPSs manages how those blocks fit or not in memory. Anyway, this is completely transparent to the developer. So we have several methods for instantiation and slicing, okay, using the same syntax of NumPy. And these methods can be loading of the data, for example, from a CSV text file, indexing, so we can access a specific part of a DS array. And then we have many operators to access and modify the data loaded in a distributed array. And also important is that these distributed arrays can be iterated efficiently along the axis, for example, different features or the samples in the data set. This is important because we can automatically provide PyCOMPSs iterators, okay, in this distributed set that, as I said before, is distributed in the nodes to operate on specific part of this array if needed. And data is not always in memory, as I said. So we support out-of-core operations. Out-of-core means that the data is not necessarily available on the same computational core on the node, on the memory of a node, but it's up to the runtime to access the blocks of the data sets, the blocks of distributed array, this array, and compute the specific method on that block. So this enables to efficiently process in a parallel way large data sets. Of course, there is a trade-off that has to be analyzed at developing time between the block size and the number of blocks. In terms of PyCOMPSs tasks, this means that, for example, usually we have to take into account that the number of tasks is inversely proportional to the size of the blocks, of course. So having more blocks doesn't mean that we have more efficiency, more parallelism, because maybe we have too many tasks, thus introducing more overhead on the runtime execution. So we need, using dislib, we need to find the proper size of blocks and the number of blocks, consequently. So we provide several methods. Okay, we have, as I said, array creation routines to load data from existing data that can be objects, for example, the NumPy objects, or files, CSV files. We can create randomly data if needed. So we have methods to generate random DS array. And then, as I said, we have many utilities to access those arrays, to scale, to apply a specific function on the DS array blocks, etc. Then, as available methods, we have matrix decompositions, PCA, for example, to reduce the data of the input data set. We have TerraSource, CFD, and etc. Then we have methods for clustering and classification. So clustering as dbscan, k-means, and classification as cascade SVM. We have several versions of the random forest classifier with different optimization. More details on these methods, of course, are available on our website with very detailed documentation. Then we have linear regressions, etc. And we also have model selection as a grid search and k-fold to properly find the find the proper number of proper parameters for a specific implementation. So we, of course, have numbers on the performance of dislib, and we found that these are numbers that are published. We have found that for very large size, dislib can obtain results, for example, much better than mlib. And we can see, we have several tests where we can see that we compared dislib with dask-ml and with mlib. And we see that dask, for example, with very large sizes, mlib and dask fail to finish the execution. Okay, so we think that dislib is very efficient with very big data set and number of cores. Before going on with an example, so when we talk about different methods, we know that in machine learning we have different kind of methods. We have the unsupervised machine learning that learns, let's say, patterns from data that are not labeled. So, for example, in clusters, label means that we don't have the specific categories, for example, of an input data set. Or we have the supervised kind of methods where the user has the labels on the samples. For example, this is typical for classification, okay, where we have a certain number of classes. So we have the input data, and the data is already assigned to each sample is already assigned a specific class. So the method in this case learns from label data. So as I said, we are based on the dislib idea, uses a bit the scikit-learn paradigm, but in a parallel and distributed way. So in scikit we have the estimator, which is a method that represents something that learns from data, labeled on a label. And we have the two main methods: the fit method that learns something from the data, for example, using a decision function. And we could say that fit is the training part of the machine learning algorithm. And then we have the predict, that is the learning, the prediction part, the inference part that provides new information on the trained dataset based on the labels. For example, we have a dataset, we train the dataset with the fit method, and then we provide another dataset, for example, the data that has to be predicted, and so the COMPS automatically provide the prediction on the data. Typical workflow, very short, as I said, is quite compact way to implement the machine learning methods. We have for example, in this case, we load a CSV file, okay? We provide the block size. So in this case, we have 10 samples and 78 labels. And we want to, so we load both the training dataset and the test dataset, because in this case we want to train. So we want to check of course, the accuracy on the test data. And we want to, in this case, classify using the k-means algorithm. So in this case, we instantiate the estimators with parameters. So in this case, we have 10 clusters of the k-means algorithm. And then we apply on the data and on the estimator the fit function. So in this case, internally, COMPS is training algorithm on the data in a distributed way. And then we make prediction on the test data to verify the accuracy of the training. So internally, what happens is that we have the DS array. In this case, we have this. This is a DS array, okay, X. So this array is implemented as an object, which basically is a block size, as I said. So it's the shape of a regular block of a matrix, and the blocks that are list of NumPy array. And we say that also we have to indicate, if needed, if the data is sparse, so the blocks are sparse or not. And most of the methods for array creation or transformation on the DS array are parallelized also with COMPS. So this is just for detailed information. So internally, when we, for example, want to generate in the main code a random array, a DS array random with a block size of 25 by 25 and with data which is 100 by 100. So in this case, and then we, for example, want to apply a mean on the X axis. So internally, saying that we wanted a random array means that we are calling transparently a task in COMPS. So it means that actually those blocks are processed in a parallel way by the COMPS runtime. So you can see internally we already annotated the functions to manage the DS array. Okay, so this is important because also at DS array management time we are already using a transparent way the COMPS. We are leveraging the COMPS parallelism features. Also, this applies to the methods. So in this case, we have the support vector machine method, and where we it's a cascade support vector machine. So we have an iteration on the data. So in this case, for example, we see that internally we have a set of tuples. So the data and the test data, the level data that are partition of X and Y horizontally with the parts of both samples. So this internally means that COMPS iterates on the data with reduce task to train the method on those data. And because it's a cascade support vector machine method, we have iterations on the data. But this means that the training function in this case is called several times, and the call to those functions are PyCOMPS task methods that are distributed and parallelized internally by the COMPS runtime. As I said, for example, the train, in this case, also it's important to say that the train function is a task in PyCOMPS that as parameters PyCOMPS collections of a given depth. And that, in this case, for example, we can leverage not just the fit predict paradigm, but also sometimes we use internally 𝗖cie𝗂𝗿𝗃 on a specific block. So in this case, the support vector machine method used a call to 𝗖cie𝗂𝗿𝗃 method, but in a parallel way on the different DS array blocks. And so the final user code is represented here. So the user has to import the dislib library, in this case the CSVM method, and we load the data size, the data set. We have a specific method for specific algorithm, and we can also implement some more on requests of our users. So in this case, the user is loading the data set, with specific block size, okay, and number of features that are needed to be trained on is needed train time. Then we instantiate the method, in this case the cascade SVM, with given parameters. Okay, these are specific to the application, specific to this method, and then we apply, as before, the fit method on the data set. Okay? In this case, is data set, and in this case, the Y, let's say, part of the DS array depends on the type of method. In case of unlabeled data, of course, this is not used, but for consistency in the API, we have to always provide this. This is what happens internally. We have the task graph of the implementation. So this is what is managed by COMPSs at runtime. So different colors here represent different task types. And internally, again, using traces, we can see, for example, if the method is properly implemented, because not just a matter of generating tasks, but also generating those tasks in an efficient way. And this depends on the on our implementation of the method in this case, so how we implemented the PyCOMPSs application, but also on the, as I said at the beginning, on the block size. So here we see that the we have a phase for data acquisition, we can say in blue, the reading part, okay, of SVM-like method, and then we have several synchronization points, and then we have the different iterations of the method. So in this case, we have the train. As you remember, this part was calls to 𝗖cie𝘂𝗿𝗃𝗲𝗄𝗏 methods, and then we have other functions that are internal managements of the array. So in this case, we see that each line represents a core. So we have the distribution of the training part of the CSVM, and we are using one node in Marinos. In this case, we have 48 cores, and we can see that the execution is quite balanced. So this was with an example of how the dislib library works in conjunction with the PyCOMPSs runtime. We have seen how to quickly implement a classification method using available implementation that we already provided, and how this is internally parallelized using the distributed array paradigm of dislib. You have more details on the website, and also we have, for PyCOMPSs specifically, we have other videos on the IE Sprint channel. Thank you for your attention.